I can't help but think that maybe this episode should have aired on Mother's Day. The Lie of the Land, Doctor Who Series 10, Episode 8. So, let's get it out of the way right now. My theory about the monks, wrong. Totally wrong. Wasn't even close. But you know what? I'm absolutely okay with that. I don't come up with theories about this stuff or that kind of speculation very often, and when I do, honestly, I'm happy to be wrong because it means I get to be surprised by what happens, and I prefer that. So yeah, we'll get off that. Although I won't lie, if I'd been right, I would have been bragging about it. So, you know, I guess I win either way as far as that goes. This episode was an interesting one. It reminded me in a lot of ways of the sound of drums with, you know, when the Master took over the planet, and even like ahead of him actually gaining power completely, that there was the whole signal affecting all people's memories and, you know, and their perception of him as John Saxon. So it rang those bells a little bit, which made it extra interesting that the Master here as Missy actually does play a part in the story as well. But overall, I liked it. It was good, and it also had certain sort of flavors of the Silence as well in their two-parter from back in Matt Smith's time, the Day of the Moon, Impossible Astronaut two-parter. There's a lot of interesting little touches to this, like the fact that there aren't really that many monks, and they kind of, as part of their memory implant, fake the idea that there's a heck of a lot more of them than there are. I like just Bill's determination throughout this, and Nardole I loved. I have really enjoyed him across this. Missy's use was good. It was kind of, you know, Hannibal Lecter-y. In when I say, I mean like specifically in terms of how it was used in something like Silence of the Lambs. But I found it was an interesting wrinkle, this idea that she does seem to actually be trying to do better. Exact motivation seems iffy. Like, is she trying to make amends? Is she trying to just be different because she wasn't getting what she wanted being the way she was? So I'm not entirely sure I understand her reasons for doing it, and I'm okay with that because I find the whole idea quite intriguing. And the line that kind of solidified my enjoyment of this and liking the steak was her saying, "I once made a gun out of leaves. You think I couldn't get through that door?" And the idea that she isn't really being kept in the vault, and she is choosing to stay there because she's trying to learn from the Doctor and she's trying to figure out how to do this right, and yet she still can't quite get there. She needs to have her fun, so she's helpful, but she's still messing with him a little bit. It's an interesting dynamic, and it makes me somewhat frustrated that last I'd heard this is going to be her last time showing up. Honestly, I'm enjoying that dynamic enough that I really kind of wish I wish two things, neither of which is the case. I wish that Capaldi was not leaving at the end of the series, and that next series, Missy was the companion. There's something about the idea of a companion that he can't really trust, and I don't know if that's been done. I think he came up maybe with one or two companions in the classic series, but like just only for a little time, and then, you know, he trusted them and kind of became the standard relationship. But the more I think about it, the more I'm like, I would like to see them do that. They kind of hinted at it in the Scream of the Shalka, which was an old animated thing that was done before the series came back proper with Christopher Eccleston. But yeah, can we get that at some point? Chris Chibnall, put it on the to-do list, maybe? Anyway, moving along. The whole thing with the Doctor, you know, appearing to be in cahoots with the monks. I mean, I think none of us thought that was really the case. I was trying to figure out his end game on that. And I think the moment paid off well. I think they maybe dragged that out a little too long just because I think none of us believed that it was really going to be the case, but it still played well for what they wanted it to accomplish. I think it worked. And I love that. I just love the shot, like he's got his arms out with the whole regeneration and just, great job, and like, you know, the energy just stops and goes away. Because I had a thought, I hadn't expressed this one earlier, because that shot of him going into regeneration mode during this series had been in some of the promotional material. I had the thought, what if his regeneration like starts, but he has a way to slow it down, so he's like holding back his regeneration for like the last few episodes of the series. I'd had that thought, and that's obviously not the case either. So I'm clearly bad at speculation. The big thing for me, why this episode worked, is honestly, they nail that ending. They nail that whole thing with Bill, with the memory of her mother, the fake memory of her mother. And I do feel like they laid that in, her connection to this idea of her mother well enough over the course of the series that worked. It could have been really cheesy, but between sort of the earlier building of that, the way that Pearl Mackie sells it and sells the emotion of it as Bill, and just having it hit at the triumph moment, just it worked. It sold that moment to me, and instead of being cheesy, I got choked up. It was good feels, that whole segment, and it was the right way to bring closure to that. And I think that helps sort of raise the whole thing up a little bit, and it did that job really well. There's a lot of other little fun moments on it, like of course the Doctor can't just sneak back onto land. He's got to crash the thing, with his I'm gonna think mashup making for this term, the wind grin. Oh, he's so good at that one. So I'm not sure there's too much to say. I think this was a nifty little 3-episode story with the monks. And it concludes kind of interestingly. And I think the monks, I would never need to see them come back, but I find their whole sort of MO and how they operate to be interesting and intriguing. And I kind of like Missy's explanation for that they don't even totally understand how their own stuff works. Like, they don't get that connection just gets passed on, and then eventually it gets broken and they lose their grip and they move on, and they don't self-analyze enough to realize that's what happens. They just apparently think that eventually their grip fades and they go somewhere else and do it again. I thought the whole scene of them going into the pier was also interesting, done to really sort of minimize the other sounds and just have Bill's message looping. That was a neat way to do that scene. I'm jumping around a bit just because, this episode, it was good. It was a good solid closeout, but I wasn't like, wow, except for a couple of specific scenes, like that closing one with Bill, with her mother, with the getting the signal fixed and all that. That was really solid. So next time we get the Ice Warriors, which I'm nervous about, mainly because I liked the last time the Ice Warriors appeared well enough. I'm not sure what there is left to do with them, but we'll give it a go. We'll see how they pan out. But this episode, The Lie of the Land, what were your thoughts on it? Whatever they were, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, check me out on Twitter at Council of Geeks. Give a listen to the Council of Geeks podcast or the Punch Like a Girl podcast, both available on iTunes and Stitcher. So until next time, this council is adjourned.